Welcome, gamers, to another episode of Pause Menu, the show where we just hit pause, sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, and just chill. I'm your host, Ben Magnet, and I'm not joined by my bros from the Fake Nerd Podcast, again, which is totally fine. We're busy, things are going down, but as always, I am not alone. I have a very special guest with me here again today. Last time I did the show, I had someone across the Atlantic. This time, I got someone across the Pacific from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. It's Tod The Top Loader. Welcome to the show, good sir.
Thank you, Ben. How are you going? How is everybody? Good, I hope.
I'm doing great. Okay, so I've dealt with time zones before. We had author Mike Diver on the show last time we recorded, and he's all the way over in the United Kingdom in England. And this is the first time I've ever had someone from Australia on the show. And you have no idea how hard it was for me to not say anything about the show by Men at Work or the song of Men at Work.
Well, I'm happy to be the first. I'm happy to be the first Australian you've had on your show. And Men at Work is a great band.
Yep, that they are.
Yes. Great song, too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And one of the places I want to go someday before I die. Definitely want to visit Australia.
Well, I've been to Australia, so I can vouch for it highly. I highly regard Australia for anybody who wants to go touristing around the world. Australia is a great place to go.
Once this COVID business is done and over with, I'm going to try and do my damnedest to make my way down there.
You're right.
Yeah, so not only do I want to visit Australia because I want to visit Australia, but also I have fallen into this great community of retro video game nerds. And I want to say a good chunk of them are from Australia. I never would have found this community. There's people from Australia, there's people from Sweden, there's people from all over Europe. There's a few of us here in the United States, but this giant, this giant bubble I just found my way into, and you're one of the people who was like, "Hey, this guy's actually pretty cool." And I was like, "Oh."
Hit you in the feels, didn't it?
It kind of did, because when I started doing Twitter more often, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. And then all of a sudden, Sega Master Tim started following me. Purple Neko started following me, and then the Top Loader started following me. I'm like, who the heck are all these people? And then it just snowballed from there.
Yeah, that's what it kind of does on Twitter and the social medias, especially. I first went on the Twitter not thinking I was going to do much with it, to be honest. It was more to just promote my YouTube channel. And what I found was I was actually really surprised because I was actually a late starter as well. Well, relatively speaking, I started probably about 2017. So that's 4 years ago. And I basically, like I said, just went on there for my YouTube channel. But there's actually a whole community there. You got, like you said, you got Americans, you got people from the UK, you got people from New Zealand, you got people from Japan, you got people all over the place talking about games and retro gaming as well. And I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, where did all these people come from? It's like, because I could never really find them on YouTube. I was always looking for people on YouTube. I could never find fellow Australians to talk to. But since I've been on the Twitters and the social medias, I've found so many more Australians just to talk to. I know that might sound weird for you Americans because a lot of you guys seem to already know each other, but in Australia, it's actually really difficult to find other retro gaming Australians out there because it's not a huge thing in Australia. It might be in other countries, but it's certainly not in Australia, but at least what I'm aware of, because I've found most of them from Twitter and not so much YouTube. But they also have YouTube channels, but it was just hard to find them on YouTube.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, that YouTube algorithm is just that's a beast in and of itself. But even here in the United States, retro gaming is such. So I'm lucky enough. I live in Southern California, and it's a very broad, like so many people from so many different cultures and so many people who with different interests live here, and that means there's like a bunch of stuff. There's like a little something for everyone, and there are quite a few retro game stores or places to buy retro video games where I am, and of course, in other parts of the country, they're not so lucky. Whereas might have that one game store, but it's about 45 to an hour drive away. Whereas here, I can go into 3 different stores in about 20 minutes, give or take, in either direction.
Wow, that's unbelievable. I am so jealous, I got to say. I'm sure in Japan it's even better than that. But in Australia, it is so hard to find anything retro related. Actually, in fact, just over the last couple of years, there's been one store that opened up. It's called Super Retro. And it was like a diamond in a rough find. I can't believe someone actually opened it up here because it's almost impossible to find a store dedicated to just retro gaming in Australia. Before that, we had to kind of rely on eBay and the Facebook marketplace. Finding people to buy and sell from was very difficult. Even now, it's still hard to do. It's getting easier slightly, but it's still difficult. Like you said, you could probably find 3 different shops that do it. Here, no, that's not the case at all. And unfortunately, what comes with that is the inflated prices because they're harder to get here. So we obviously have PAL, PAL, not NTSC. So to get the PAL cartridges, they actually go for a lot more generally than the NTSC prices. So we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes buying these games because the PAL cartridges are always more expensive in the first place before we even start to try to look. You know, so we're kind of like starting from behind before we start the race.
Yeah. Yeah, which one of the reasons why I can't wait for COVID to be over is so because you and a few other Australians I've been talking to on Twitter, I'm just like sitting here waiting for travel to open up. It's safe for everyone to be together again. For you guys to come visit the United States because every person because there's if I ever get word that one of my Twitter friends from Australia, England, Europe, wherever, they're like, hey, I'm gonna be in the SoCal area for like X amount of days. I'm like, cool. What day do you have free? Because I'm taking you retro game shopping. We're taking the town.
Yeah. If I ever go there, you're taking me to town because I really need to go to town. I get so jealous watching all these YouTube videos, even in the English ones, because I know a lot of UK. I probably personally know a lot more UK YouTubers through Twitter and watching their videos as well, where they go on their retro gaming hunts. And sometimes I just think, oh my God. Sometimes they complain about the prices in the video. I'm thinking, that's so cheap compared to what we're paying. It's so frustrating because it's like, they're just going to car boot sales. They're going to garage sales. They're finding cartridges and consoles left and right. It's like, wowzers, man. Like, I really wish I could be in that situation. But unfortunately, Australia, as you know, it's kind of disconnected from the rest of the world. We're in our own little spot in the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by water. We're actually a country, continent, and island, all 3 in 1. So that's how far away we are from everybody.
Yeah. Well, so getting into like the real meat of the episode, the reason why I asked you to be on the show is because you, by judging by your glorious wall of your video game systems back there, you are a video game collector. I am also a video game collector. So the topic today is essentially video game collecting, what we are collecting, what we want to collect in the future, what are woes like, oh my God, why did I not pick up that one thing at one time? And just general like collecting stuff, essentially. So what is your favorite system to collect for right now? Do you have just one or do you have a wide range of systems you'd like to collect for at this moment?
So basically anything cartridge based is what I collect. Boxed as well. Usually I don't go for carts, but I have a main system. So my number 1 priority is the Super Nintendo because that's my favorite console of all time. So it's always my number 1. So if I get to choose between 2 games that I see in the auction sites or whatever, I always go for the Super Nintendo first. So I'm always looking for a bargain for the Super Nintendo. Then it trickles off. So my trickle off consoles are more like it goes down to Mega Drive, then NES, Master System, Game Boy, Game Gear from there. So Super Nintendo for me is at the top, but it trickles down to all the other 16-bit, 18-bit consoles. And I also have some leeway for CD-based games like the PlayStation and the Saturn as well. I don't usually go for the disc-based games as much because I'm not huge on collecting CD media, but I do collect them as well. Like I've got plenty of PlayStation games and Saturn games as well because I actually really love the Saturn. I just hate, at the time, the CD based systems were a thing that was to be celebrated. But when you go back to collecting now, cartridges are much better to collect because they're much more sturdy. What I find with the CDs is a lot of times they're scratched, but I get secondhand, which can be really ultra frustrating. It's almost as frustrating as trying to buy a Super Nintendo cardboard box mint in condition. So it's very comparative. But the cartridges are always rock solid when I'm looking for something to buy with a cartridge. That's why it's my number 1 because it's my favorite also, but also because the CD-based systems, well, at least from my experience, have been much harder to get in good, really good condition. Because like I said, I collect mints. I don't collect crap. Because the only reason why is because I'm limited on space. So if I'm limited on space, I've got to get the best. If I just keep buying crap, I'm going to fill my room up really fast with crap and have no more room left for all my good stuff.
So funny you mentioned space. That's the exact same reason why what I'm collecting right now. So when I go out to video game stores or to places with my friends to go game shopping, I am specifically looking for Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS games, mainly because they are super small and they're super tiny. That's like the only reason why, because I mean, my little gaming loft is essentially where I record all my podcasts and where I do all my stuff, and also where I got my video games plugged in over there. But once again, space is a problem. All my games are stored in this dresser behind me, and I was putting my new DS games in there. I was like, oh, I gotta like move some stuff around to make room.
Yeah.
So I completely understand. I completely get it. And also, you said that you collect mint. So so used you stay away from, right?
No, so when I say mint, it's still mostly used, but like as mint as I can get it. For example, a rare game, like say an ultra rare game, probably to get in mint condition is going to be very expensive and very hard to find. So my ratio is going to differ depending on how rare the game is. If it's a really rare game in crappy condition, I'll probably still buy it because it's so rare. But if it's a common game, just say like Super Mario Kart on a Super Nintendo, I'll look for a mint game because there's probably lots of them out there. But if I come across, like, for example, I found a NES version of the Jetsons. If you know the Jetsons on the NES, is very rare. It had no box, it just had the cartridge. So I bought it because I normally buy in the box, but obviously to buy a Jetsons game on the NES is not so easy to find, especially here where I'm living right now. So I'm going to buy it because it's so rare, and that's probably the best I'm going to get it at a decent price, at least. If I want to find one in the box, A, it's very hard to do, and two, if I did find one, it would be very expensive to buy. So in that case, I will compromise. So I do have compromises depending on how rare the game actually is.
Yeah, when I get my my Game Boy and my Game Boy Advance games, those I'm totally fine loose. I mean, if I could find them CIB, great. But as you said, if they're complete in the box, then that's just gonna drive the price up. That's just more space for me, because especially for those GBA games, because I really want to try and find a few GBA titles. GBA cartridges are like this small, and the box is like that big.
That's so true.
So you gotta, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I like my last weekend, I went game shopping with my best friends, and I found an NES classic Xevious for the Game Boy Advance. It was completely sealed, never been opened before, and it was like $20.
Wow.
So I was like, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and snag it. I originally had Xevious on the NES. I got rid of it years later, but I was like, you know what? I remember having this game. I remember liking it. You know what? It's cheap. It's completely sealed. So I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick it up. Why not?
Yeah. Exactly.
But then you got games like, so one of my big finds, what I want to try and find, is Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance and Chrono Trigger for the DS. Chrono Trigger, I'm less compromising on, because I'm really picky about my DS games. I really like them being in a case. Whereas for my Game Boy Advance games, like if I can find a loose card of Fire Emblem, done. Easy.
Yeah. Well, that's actually interesting that you say Chrono Trigger, because I have a mint Chrono Trigger on my Super Nintendo and DS. And when it came out on the DS, I bought it straight away, not thinking that that was also going to become sort of rare as well, because I just figured that everyone was going to jump on the DS version when it came out because how popular the Super Nintendo game was. So I've got both mint on the Super Nintendo, which is NTSC. It never came out in PAL. I actually had to buy that from the international eBay, which is a whole different story. That's a whole other story. I can tell you from my perspective, but that's another tangent. But Chrono Trigger on the DS, I'm surprised is actually decently rare. I don't even know what the prices go for, because I have heard that it's harder to get, but I don't actually know what the prices are for Chrono Trigger DS. It just does surprise me.
So a store that I follow on social media, they recently got in a copy of Chrono Trigger. I don't know if it's still there. I'm going to try and check when I go visit. Their store is close to where my mom lives, and I'm going to see my mom tomorrow, because it's Mother's Day for you. It's still Saturday night for me. By the way, Mom, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, she's out with the kid at the moment at the park. We've been out all morning. I said, just give me a couple of hours today. She's like, sweet. I want to go to the park anyway. So that's where we are right now. So that's when you know when they come home. That's when you know that's when a noise happens.
I bet. I don't have any kids of my own yet, but where was it? But yeah, so that store that has Chrono Trigger, they were when I saw they first got it, I asked how much it was. They were selling it. It's complete in box. Manuals are fine. The condition's really good. $130 US.
Wow. That's amazing. Like I wouldn't have thought it would be that expensive, really, honestly, eh?
Yeah, it is pretty expensive. I think loose is going for about like 75. There's a website called Price Charting that I use that I use sometimes to like kind of gauge prices.
Yeah, I know the site. Yeah. I've used those type of things before.
Because there are times where I'm like looking at stuff, and also when another thing is I want a real copy of it. I don't want a repro. I don't want a fake. You want the real deal, because there have been times where I see, like when I was hunting for Metroid Fusion a long time ago. That's like one of my gripes is when people sell repros and they don't pass them off as the original, but they'll at least price it like they were the original. I want to say I want to say like months ago when I was trying to find Metroid Fusion, there was this at one of my favorite trade shows. There's this guy who had the biggest booth in the whole show. It was like 99% video games, and he knew he had the biggest video game collection out of every other booth in the entire thing. But since he knows that, he jacked up all the prices on the games.
Great reseller.
Yeah. So of course I would look at the Game Boy games. I see Metroid Fusion, but the label looked off. So I asked him, I was like, "Hey, how much is that Metroid Fusion going for?" And they're like, "Oh, that's going for like $40." And I was like, "Can I see it?" And I was looking at it, I was like, "Dude, I think this is like a fake copy." And then the guy behind the counter was like, "But it still plays the whole game." I'm like, "But I'm like, but this is but is this like the actual game from a box, or did someone recreate this?"
Yeah, it's a big difference there, and it annoys me. It's really getting hard on eBay. Well, it's not getting hard, but there's so many more repros coming up on eBay, especially GBA games.
Oh yeah,
they're constant. You really got to look at the fine print, because it will say reproduction on a lot of them in the smallest writing that you can read. It's because you know what rare games are genuinely, and when you're saying, okay, this game looks pretty decently priced, and then you look at the fine print. So reproduction, how many of these reproductions? People, collectors myself, I don't want a reproduction. I can get an emulator if I want to reproduce it myself. I don't really need a cartridge reproduced. Unless it's like if Capcom have gone out to 8-bit and done like a special thing for it. That's a little bit different. If you know the 8-bit do those reproduction things, that's a little bit different. But when it's just some seller on eBay, that's a whole different story. It's like a collector wants a genuine article, and don't put the prices up just because the game's actually ready. All you're doing is putting a ROM on a cartridge with a box. Yeah, that's all it is. I can get the emulation for free myself.
Yeah, like I mean, I do understand like there are some reproduction cartridges that are super expensive, like you said, the 8-bit ones. I want to say that 8-bit Retro, they did 30th anniversary Mega Man carts for Mega Man 1 Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X for the NES and the SNES. They have the game file on it. Like Capcom gave them their blessing to do that, and they just recreated these cartridges that could work in an actual system. But those are different because those are like the
I actually have that one. I actually have the Mega Man one.
Nice.
It might be on the shelf somewhere. I've actually got Metroid Fusion sealed in the cupboard as well. If you want to see any of his games, I can bring them out for you.
Where is it? Well,
I can go get them for you if you want.
I mean, if you go for it, because I was gonna say, here's my copy of Golden Sun, right? Yeah. So one of the ways that a buddy of mine told me how a really good way you can discern whether a game cart is a real or a fake is if you take the label and you put it up into the sun, you should, or not in the sun, or a light source of some kind, you should be able to see at least like 2 numbers like imprinted into the label. You can't. I mean, I would show you on. I don't think my camera will be able to see it.
No.
But you should be able to like see that there's like on my copy of Golden Sun, it has like the number 01. It can be any number. It doesn't have to be 01. It could be any form of number. I don't know what those numbers mean, but as long as those numbers are there, like they're imprinted into the cartridge, you do have a real cartridge. And also, if you look underneath for where the gold pins are, you have to like really squint and find it. You should see like Nintendo written on the side. Or written.
Also, if you open it up, I think there's something to do with the inside of it as well. It's a little bit different. You can get different. Yeah, if you open it with Super Nintendo, that's a big giveaway. You open it up and you can see how it's produced inside. You can tell almost straight away. I can't remember the exact details, but I know there's obviously differences between the repros and the genuine article. I noticed early on with collecting because I always collect Pokemon games as soon as they come out. So I get the game because, like you said, the small little cartridge, like a little container. I put all my cartridges into the container and keep the box separate. I just always do that. I've been doing that pretty much since I was a little kid. Even before, like when I was a little kid, I was like 1993. I was 11 years old. I'll just use the cartridge and put the box away somewhere nice and neat. So the box always stayed nice. I was doing that even in the 90s. So with the Game Boy, with the Pokemon, because it's one of my favorite series, obviously for RPGs, it's actually pretty much one of the only RPGs I play. I just love Pokemon that much. So there was one or two that I did miss out where I couldn't afford it at the time because I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So there was a couple of games that I missed out on. So I went back early on, say 2003, 2004, to try and track down these old Pokemon games. What I found was everybody was trying to reproduce the Pokemon games unofficially, even back then on eBay. And I actually didn't realize that at first. And I almost bought one that was not the genuine article because it said reproduction again in the small print. It's like, I think Pokemon was one of the first games that they really tried to reproduce because it was so popular. And those games go for so much money. If you try to buy a Pokemon game now, like pretty much any decent Pokemon game, the prices for those are skyrocketed. It's probably, out of all the franchises, Pokemon's probably the most expensive to buy as a whole if you went through every single game.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Pokemon, even to this very day, trying to find older Pokemon games, especially authentic cartridges, is one of the hardest. Okay, it's not one of the hardest things to do, but at the same time, a Pokemon game goes into a store, it's probably going to be gone within a few hours, give or take, because they're just so sought after, and there are a bunch of repros. Like last Saturday, my best friend, he bought I want to say Fire Red, and it was an authentic. He actually double checked. Luckily, the guy who sold it to us was like, look, there are times I get in repros, but I'll let you know if it is a repro or not. And he sells the repros a lot cheaper. But he says like, oh, that's an authentic copy of Pokemon. I want to say it was Fire Red, and I think he also got Yellow version as well. I could be wrong, but he dropped well over like $150 that day just for 2 games.
And what amazes me is Pokemon sell in the millions. There are millions of copies of these games, but people just buy them that fast. If you see one that's mint on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or in your retro gaming shops, wherever you go to buy them, they do go fast. Someone in the YouTube channels say if you put Pokemon into a shop, they'll sell pretty much instantly. Well, not instantly, like pretty close to it. So there's millions of copies of them, but because they're so sought after, and because they sell so well, they just put the price up. Because even though there's a lot of them, people always want to buy them.
Yeah, they do. It is so, and you would think like not way back in like 2014, 2015, when they put Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow on the eShop for the Nintendo 3DS, you would think, okay, do you want a cart that's obsolete, that you have to have a different system to work on, and you have to buy and you have to put more money that way, or just download it for $5 on your and you can play it on your 3DS.
Yeah.
You would think that if it's available on your 3DS, people would go to the 3DS and the prices of Pokemon would go down. They didn't. They are still.
In fact, I probably think it did the opposite because it probably showed more people these old games. It's like when prices of retro gaming did start to go up, I noticed it specifically. People always say it was when the YouTubers used to talk about the games, like Angry Video Game Nerd, all those guys, right? And the prices would go up, which is true. But for me personally, I recognized a big jump around 2008 because I've always had my finger on the dial looking for games across all platforms, all auction sites, wherever it may be. Like I said, back then, I was pretty limited of where I could actually buy. And I would browse the American sites quite often to check out the prices. And I can tell you right now, you guys have had the best prices for quite some time earlier on. Say from 2002 to about 2008, the prices for the American eBay sites were like halved. They were so good. And the problem is, I couldn't buy from the American eBay site because a lot of the sellers on there wouldn't sell internationally. So about 20% of the sellers would sell to Australians and send it out, but the rest of them wouldn't. So even though they had really great prices, I couldn't buy them. But what happened was in 2008 was the recession. Was that around 2008? Something like that?
That's 2008,
so What happened was with that, So the Australian dollar was 70 cents to American $1. When the recession hit, our Australian dollar went to 101 to the American $1. So we went from 70 cents to the 101. And then what happened was eBay introduced what's called international priority shipping. You've probably never heard of that because you don't have to worry about that, but us internationals have to. So what that means is when I buy something from an American seller, the American seller will send it to somebody in America and they deal with the international shipping. So they don't have to worry about it. They send it within America. So all of a sudden, all of these eBay sellers from America started selling internationally. So it went from about 20% of the American sellers selling to Australians in UK or whatever to about 80%. So when I went to the 80% mark, all of a sudden I could buy games from the American site and at a very good price because of the recession. Our dollar made them very, very cheap and affordable to buy, and there was plenty of them. The quantity was so much on the American site compared to what I'm used to, which is pittance. The Australians say Super Mario Kart, there'd be like 20, 30 listings on the American site, where the Australian site would probably have like 5. You know what I mean? So we have a lot less to choose from, and the price all of a sudden was much easier to get, and more of the sellers were selling it to international sellers like buyers like myself.
I mean, now what you told me in Australia, especially how hard it is for retro gamers to get stuff in Australia, might as well just go for the American version. You might not be able to play the PAL versions, but it's like, hey, I can get an American Super Nintendo with the American cartridges for 10 times cheaper than it is getting here in Australia. I'm just going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's it. I actually like the look of the PAL cartridges better, but like you said, the NTSC generally are cheaper. And what I found now is a lot of Japanese sell in the American site, so you get a lot of Super Famicom games. So if you're looking for games like Hagani on the Super Nintendo or Mega Man X2, you can get the Super Famicom version much cheaper if you go for the Japanese version instead of the American NTSC version.
Which you mean this one?
Yeah, that's the one. I'm actually, yeah. Did you have that when you were a kid, or did you buy that in one of your first stores?
This isn't mine. This is my roommate's. So when I moved in with my roommate, he's my girlfriend's best friend, and so when I moved in, he showed me my girlfriend told me that he had a bunch of NES games. And I'm like, oh, cool, that's cool. Oh, that's awesome, because he knows I'm a huge video game nerd. I'm a retro guy. And then when we finally moved in, I'm like putting all my stuff together. And then he's like, hey, do you mind storing my SNES games for me? Not only does he have SNES games, he also has Famicom games as well, and a modded SNES that plays both.
Well, that makes it handy, doesn't it, when you can play both of them on the one system?
It does, yeah. So, of course, when he's showing me his cartridges, I'm like, holy shit, he has Mega Man X and X2. And I told him how much these go for now. And he's like, wow, that's a lot. I'm like, don't sell them.
So he's not going to sell them to you? That's the first question I would have asked. I would have said, hey, man, you want to sell these? I'll buy them off you. Nice price.
I mean, if you ever offered it, sure, but I'm not pushing for it.
Is he not wanting to sell them, or does he still actually play them?
Well, right now he wants to play them again, and I would like to play them as well. I mean, even though I have an SNES Mini Classic hooked up to my TV right now, so I don't have to worry about Mega Man X. And I also have the Mega Man Legacy Collection for the Switch, so I don't have to worry about Mega Man X2 as well. Yeah. But it's just one of those things where you just don't want to get rid of it. No, where it's like, because he's had these games for a very long time, and I don't want him to get rid of them because they're like, these are classic games and they're super hard to find. And the fact that he's held on to this since he was a kid, it's like, yes, don't get rid of that. It's like me with my Pokemon games. I have my original Red and Blue. I'm never going to sell them. The red version was mine. The red version is mine. The blue version was my brother's. My brother moved to the other side of the United States, but I'm still holding on to his blue version for it. If he ever asks for it, I'll give it to him. But for now, it's sealed. It's not sealed. It's locked away. It's safe. And because we've had those games when they first came out in the States in '98, and I'm not going to get rid of those. That's like the one Pokemon game I refuse to sell. The only Pokemon game I did sell was my silver version because the save battery died and I didn't know how to fix it.
And now you do know how to fix it and you regret it.
Well, yes, but then a few years down the line, my best friend bought me Soul Silver for the DS, but he was only able to get me the card, not the CIB box, because like an idiot, when Soul Silver and Heart Gold came out, I thought, I don't have $40 to burn. I'll just wait until they go on sale for $20.
Yeah.
Heart Gold went on sale, not Soul Silver, and guess which version I wanted? There's the damn it. There's the hint.
Not gold.
Nope, not gold.
Great thing about Soul Silver does go for a lot, and I've got mine completely boxed because, like I said, I take the cartridge out and put it into my little box. And then when my nephew, he stopped playing games, he gave me all his DS games, and he had Heart Gold and Soul Silver boxed as well. So now I've got 2 of each. I've got 2 Soul Silver and 2 Heart Gold boxed, except he's missing the Pokemon tracker, but I've still got mine, so that's all right. Because you need the Pokemon tracker to keep the value. Not that value matters to me anyway. I'm not selling them, but it's always nice to know I can always have the Pokemon tracker with it because, you know, that's part of the package.
Yeah, I never wanted it. I mean, the tracker sounded cool, but I never, when I finally wanted to find, because my best friend, he got my copy of Soul Silver for Christmas. He hunted that thing down. It was still hard to find. The game came out in 2010, and this was like 2012, I want to say, when he bought me the game. It's either 2012 or 2011. It was still early, like the game was around, but it was at that point where you couldn't find it at Target anymore. You couldn't find it in stores. You had to find it at game stores or retro game shops. And good luck wanting it CIB, because it's like, it came out for $40. Congratulations. It's now $60. And when he found the cartridge for me at a GameStop. Luckily, it was at one of our local malls that we have here in SoCal. And it was still $40. Just the cartridge. It didn't have the box, didn't have the case. It was just the cartridge, and he bought it for $40. So I'm like, I'm an idiot. I should just bought it when I had the chance. And now,
and you never saw the sale. You never found a sale for it initially when we were like selling out the old stock.
Nope.
No. you missed your shot. See, I told you, you got to strike when the iron's hot. Luckily, because I already knew that Pokemon games always go for a lot, so I always try to buy the Pokemon games, like both versions, when they come out. But if you do miss it, like you say, it's hard to recoup when you miss the games that you missed in the franchise, especially with Pokemon.
Oh yeah, like there's only one gen that I'm totally fine with missing, and that was Black and White. I wasn't a really big fan of that generation. I got back into Pokemon with X and Y. I barely played Sun and Moon. I still have the game. I'm not gonna get rid of it. I just barely played it. Yeah. And then of course when Sword and Shield came out, I'm like, hell yeah, Sword.
Yeah. I have the new Pokemon as well, on the Switch, the Sword and Shield. I always preferred it, the original Game Boy. You know, I actually preferred the simpler graphics. On the Switch, it doesn't look the best. Pokemon Snap actually looks 10 times better than Sword and Shield. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. But I actually just kind of missed the old. I think the best iteration they did was the Game Boy Advance, because it wasn't 8-bit. It wasn't too fancy. It was just right in that 16-bit sweet spot, I think, because it had a nice anime type look to it, like a little cartoon. It was almost like you're playing like a little cartoon. I really enjoyed that. And I kind of miss it. I wish they did more like that, but I know they're never going to do that, because obviously consoles are getting more powerful. They're going to utilize the most power out of each console that they're going to bring out. But I do still miss it at the same time.
I would say Pokemon Diamond looked really good on the DS.
Yeah. Around that time, like when it started to get more 3D, like each iteration got more 3D. It's like I still love the games. Like the gameplay is still great. Like it's pretty much a type of game that you're never going to get sick of. But aesthetically, I don't think I like it as much as the older ones. But I still obviously play them. I still like the games. I just prefer definitely the style of the older ones for sure.
Yeah. I grew up with the original pixel art of the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, especially because my personal favorite game is that one, Pokemon Silver. That's my personal favorite, and I will die on the hill that that's the best Pokemon game ever made. Fight me on that one. But I grew up on those graphics, but especially with Soul Silver, Heart Gold, or even Fire Red and Leaf Green, those look better. They're prettier. I'm still happy that I can go back and play the older games on their original platforms and the original hardware and not be like, oh, this looks disgusting. But there are times it's like, yeah, this looks nice and pretty. It's a little easier on the eyes.
My actual favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Yellow, but that's more of a nostalgia thing because that was my
got it.
first Pokemon game. I just turned 16 when that game came out, the special edition, not the red and blue came out first, and we got the special edition, and everybody was making such a big deal about this Pokemon thing. And because I was in high school, I didn't really want to go for it because it looked really kiddie. And when I did actually buy it, because everyone was making such a big deal about it, I never told anybody that I bought it because when we're in high school, you're not going to tell people you're playing Pokemon games, but now it's the cool thing to do. So now it's in reverse. Now it's like, yeah, I was playing Pokemon before, or you were playing Pokemon, right? It's like the whole band thing. Oh yeah, I was listening to that band before they were popular.
And I just realized something. I just took a look into my drawer with all my DS games, and I must have sold Diamond. I don't have it anymore.
Oh, you got the...
I thought I had it, but nope, it's gone. Son of a bitch.
It's those regrets in life that you can't get back.
No. Well, it's like what you... Well, I mean, luckily Brilliant Diamond's coming out for the Switch, so I'll be able to get it back eventually.
Yeah.
Keyword there being eventually whenever it comes out. But speaking of Pokemon, I was in high school when Pokemon Diamond came out. I was a sophomore, and I thought I was done with Pokemon. I'm never going to do Pokemon again. I was like, that's a kid's thing. I go to school. Everyone's talking about how cool Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are, so I cave. I get it. And I was expecting, like, my younger brother, he was more of a cool kid. Listeners of the show know the story, so I'll give a very quick version of it to you, Top. I was expecting my brother to, like, chew me out. I was like, why are you wasting money on Pokemon? You're too old. You're 60. Why are you doing this? And so I'm in my room playing my game. In comes my brother, and I'm like, okay, all right. I'm ready with a defense. I'm ready to fight back. And he instantly goes straight to my shelf, and he's like, oh my God, yes, I'm so happy you got Pokemon. I'm sitting there going, what? Like, I'm in the middle of my first gym battle, and he's like looking at the cartridge like, yes, you got Diamond. I'm so happy you got Diamond. I've been wanting to play this. I'm like, hold up. What do you mean you've been wanting to play this?
How cool are you? You got instant cred from your younger brother.
Apparently so.
It's actually, I have a very similar story, not with Pokemon, just with gaming in general, because I'm a little bit older than you. So just to give a bit of a background on me, I was born in 1982. So I grew up on systems like the Commodore 64, Atari, the Sega Master System. So back when you're a kid, every kid played games. But later in life, people stopped playing games. And for a period of time, I stopped playing games too. In fact, when I started going back to playing Super Nintendo games was probably about 2003. And the reason was because I was just out of school. My job, I was an apprentice. I was apprentice craftsman. So I wasn't getting paid the most. When you're a first year apprentice, you don't get paid the most. So why I ended up going back to retro gaming in the first place was because, ironically, I couldn't afford to buy brand new games, because brand new games in Australia were about $100. So that's our price. So our 70 cents to the American dollar, you can go by how much that would be in American dollars, what, $70 American? So our $100, whatever it is, you can do the maths. To buy a brand new Switch game now, it's actually $80. So the games are a lot cheaper now. But back then, when I was on an apprentice wage, I couldn't afford to buy all these brand new PS2 games, GameCube games, things like that, whatever it was at the time. So I went back to my Super Nintendo, ironically, because it was cheaper to buy them back then. I bought the very first Mega Man X box mints for $40. And I remember saying, I still got it here because I don't sell anything. I remember saying to myself, this is exactly what I said. I can't believe I'm paying $40 for a game. That's half the price of a brand new game. And that same game's worth about $300 Australian now. And I think back to that, and I could see the trend going up and up. As I kept looking at the prices, because I obviously had not a whole lot of money back then, so I was keeping an eye on the prices because I just went back to buying Super Nintendo Mega Drive games. That's when I got back into it because that's all I could afford. And now it's crossed over. Now brand new games are cheap and old games are expensive. So when I was a kid, I couldn't afford Super Nintendo games. So there was a one-time period in my life where I could afford Super Nintendo games, and that was around 2003, because now Super Nintendo games are very expensive. If I buy a Super Nintendo game, I have to research it. I have to find the best price. I have to look at all the auction sites. I have to scour through the Facebook marketplaces. It's a whole ordeal just to buy a game for a Super Nintendo, which is my favorite console now. Unfortunately, it was a lot more fun back then because I could just buy any game I wanted at that time. I didn't have the funds, but now I've got the money, but the prices have gone so much up, the ratio's out of whack again. So I've never got that ratio kind of right. If I didn't have a lot of money and the prices were all right, but now I've got the money and the prices have gone through the roof.
It's like, it is that, oh man, there's an analogy or an allegory there somewhere that's just like, we just cannot win.
I can't win with the Super Nintendo.
When I was a kid and a lot of these games were super cheap, I mean, I'm a kid, and even though I grew up in the age of the internet, I didn't realize that I was a huge retro fan until much later in my life. Until much later, when it's like, hey, I actually do like retro games. I love going back and playing these old ones, and I would do it if I can. I would do it if I can. I still play modern games, of course, but if I have a chance and I'm able to, I go to the older ones because I've never experienced them. I never grew up with the Sega Master System, Genesis here in America, in my household until just recently when one of my best friends got me the Mini for Christmas. My very first console was a Sony PlayStation. And there are a lot of great PlayStation games that I haven't played yet. But when I look into retro circles or even our friends on Twitter, they're talking about the SNES games, the NES games. Our friend Lulu, she talks about the Commodore 64.
She does all the time. She loves that thing. So do I. I love the Commodore 64 too. If you do actually looking for a good PlayStation game, Mega Man X4 is the best Mega Man game probably you ever played.
Have it.
You have it? Are you kidding? Do you know how much that thing goes for? How'd you get that?
There you are. Had it for years.
That's my favorite Mega Man game. This is
the first Mega Man X game I ever played.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You started with the best. You started with the best.
Apparently so. Everyone swears by X1 being the best. 2 is good.
Okay, I've got a story there for you to hear it. So for years, I was one of those people who would swear by Mega Man X1. I was the one. You mentioned Mega Man Legacy Collection before. I recently got it about a year ago physically because the Japanese brought out it physically. Everywhere else got a digital file, of course. But Japan actually got a physical copy of Mega Man Legacy with Mega Man X4 on it. So that's one of the first times I actually played the game. Then I tracked it down on my PlayStation because my dad had a whole lot of burnt games, and I found it on that, and I played it on that as well. But that was actually one of the first times I played it, and I swore by Mega Man X1 my whole life. Ever since I bought it, this is the best I played a lot of them after that, and I always went back to Mega Man X. I just loved that game so much. And I put in Mega Man X4 probably about a year ago, and I said to myself, I can't believe I am saying this. I can't believe it. I'm saying this, but this is better than the Super Nintendo version. It is the best one that I've played. I actually also liked from the Mega Man Legacy Collections, Mega Man 8, surprisingly. Everyone says it's a bad game, a Mega Man game, but I actually thought it was quite good. The Mega Man X.
So Mega Man 8. Oh, I have, yeah. I mean, I used to have it. Do I still have it? I don't know if I do. Damn it. No, I don't. I must have lost because I know what happens over time is sometimes you lose games, and that's one of the hardest things ever. I had a copy of Mega Man 8. I unfortunately lost it, but Mega Man 8, that was one of the first Mega Man games I ever played because I loved Mega Man as a kid. Sonic and Mega Man, those guys are my two favorites. I have all video game characters. Those are the two. I started with Sonic and I went to Mega Man. Even though I didn't play a Mega Man game until much later because there was a Saturday morning cartoon for Mega Man going on, and I thought I was like, his hand, and when I'm like, frack, how old am I? Like 2-3 years old when this is airing on TV in the wee hours of the morning. I just see a guy whose hand goes into his sleeve and out comes a cannon. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great premise of the game. And you get to choose which level you want to do. It's great. And you got to try and strategically place which one's got the weapon that you need to beat the boss for another level. It's a formula that still works. They're still making... There's so many Mega Man games, and they're still seemingly releasing them. They brought out Mega Man 11 recently. Well, not recently. It was a few years ago. I've got that. It's great. Mega Man 9's hard, but it's a good game. What's hard with Mega Man 9 is not so much the actual first few levels. It's actually when you get to the last towers, because you got to do it in one hit. you got when you do the boss, I can't remember what it's actually called, but you've got to pretty much do it from start to finish. You can't stop. If you stop halfway through and say, okay, I want to come back to this, it resets. So you got to start it again. That's what actually makes it hard.
That is mean.
It is very mean.
But luckily, thanks to the Legacy Collection, I'm able to get Mega Man 8, so I don't feel like I need Mega Man 8 anymore. but I'm still glad I held on to like my Mega Man X games, because I do have Mega Man X5 for the PlayStation. I of course have Mega Man X6 for the PlayStation, which, I mean, 5 and 6 are not the best, but like, these are my two favorite Mega Man games of all time. They're on the PlayStation, Legends and Legends 2.
Oh wow. I've never played them.
I have played them. I've played them multiple times. These are my favorite ones. I absolutely adore these games. And these are the ones that are criminally underrated by Capcom. They keep making legacy collections for other stuff, but not for the Legends games.
They had a third one in production, I think, and they canceled it.
Oh, I know. I was very aware.
I've never, you're going to kill me. I was trying to say it before, but I don't want to interrupt you. I've never played one. I've never played a Legends game.
That's totally fine.
Everyone talks about them though. I don't know why I haven't. Probably like you said, they haven't re-released them in any form to do it that way. That's probably why I haven't played them, because I played a lot of those other Mega Man games through the legacy collections. Some of them I went back and hunted down because I liked them so much. I'm trying to get a Mega Man 8, but they're so expensive to buy here. It's looking pretty dire for me, but I'm still on the lookout for one. Like I said, I got the Mega Man Legacy Collections physical. So when you say you have it, did you have the digital versions, or did you actually track down all the physical versions of all those Mega Man Legacy Collections?
So for my 3DS, I bought the digital copy of the Legacy Collection, the first one, because it was like super cheap on the eShop. So that was digital. I have the physical copies of them here in America, but the thing is, when you bought them for the Switch, they came with like the first half was a physical cart, and then part 2 of the Legacy Collection, that was a digital download. That's right. Like half of them is physical and the other half is digital, which is a bummer. But luckily for Mega Man Legends for Legacy Collection 2 for the X1, 4 is on the cartridge. 4 is on the little game card. Yeah, 4 is on the little game card. 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's the digital one.
For any Switch fans out there, Japanese have a physical version of it. No one else does. And I've got that version. And you can change the language to English. So if you buy a Japanese version, it doesn't matter. You can change in the menu. It says Japanese versions or English versions. So if you buy the Japanese versions, you don't have to speak Japanese, because you can change it to English.
And also the Switch isn't region locked, so we don't have to worry about that.
That's right. Don't tell anybody. It's a big secret. Which I was mad with the free. I was so mad with the 3DS how it was region locked. 3DS, man.
No, when they announced that the Switch wasn't going to have a region lock on it, I thought I was like, cool. So if I ever go to Japan, which I hopefully do, I will someday, I could buy a bunch of Japanese Switch games, pop them in, and if they have an English setting, just set to English, and then boom, there I go.
That's it. How easy is it now compared to how we were? Well, when I was a kid, I didn't know it was Japanese. Half the time, I didn't know Japanese were making these games, because living in Australia in the 90s, we had no internet. I didn't know Mario was even Japanese, because he's Mario. He's an Italian plumber. We didn't know he was Mario. And the way we got our Nintendo games was through Mattel. Mattel distributed all our Nintendo stuff. So we had Nintendo in Mattel. We didn't know it was Japanese. It wasn't until later on in life. It's like, oh, these are Japanese games? I never knew that. It blew my mind when I first heard that.
It's kind of like me and the Pokemon, because I never knew Pokemon was Japanese. When I was watching the anime, I didn't know it was an anime. I had no idea. I thought it was I thought it was like an American, like my thought process when I was a kid is, if it comes out in on American television, it came from America. We don't get any stuff from anywhere else.
Yep. And it's like Dragon Ball Z is the same. Dragon Ball Z. I thought it was an American show. People think we're crazy, but like it's different. It was different in the 90s, because Dragon Ball Z came out in the late 90s. It was just different. Like I didn't know that was Japanese.
Yeah, Pokemon and Digimon. I thought they were both American things, but just that they were also super popular in Japan. Like I remember a friend of mine who lived across the street from me. He showed off the Pokemon cards for Gen 2 for Gold and Silver. He had like a little booklet that had all the starters, and the evolutions in a trading card form. And I was like, why is Japan getting these first? And he looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I mean, Pokemon's American. Why is Japan getting it first? And I think that's when he tried to tell me that Pokemon was originally Japanese. I just didn't listen.
It's so commonplace now. You think, how did we not know that? And everyone's like, our younger person's thinking, how did you not know that? It was different then, okay? When you had no internet, even in the 90s, I didn't have an internet connection until 1999. Dial-up internet, and the websites weren't like they were today. They were very they had like Java and they had like text, a lot of text websites. It wasn't like it is now. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all these podcasting. We didn't have people telling us across the oceans, or like Japan and America and all those places, what they had. We didn't know that. I didn't know. I just thought everything was from Australia or whatever it was. I didn't know it was from Japan or anything like that.
Yeah, I even grew up with the internet, but still my internet experience was very limited, but it was also very guarded. So, because my father is a former police officer, and let's just say when the internet was coming out, he was hearing some rumblings about people getting snatched and people not saying who they really are on the internet. He was very like making sure we knew what we were doing. Yeah. So I wasn't shielded. I was like, hey, don't talk to strangers on the internet because they're not who they say they are. It was one of those things. So, but still, growing up with the internet, you still had to be careful. But you also did not know what was going on. Like this is brand new thing, and I also had dial-up internet for the longest time. So I just get flashbacks of the famous dial-up tone that will never leave my brain.
It was a different time, and that could be my phone ringtone or a message ringtone. It's like you said, it's ingrained in my brain. Yep. That people like, what's that noise? It's like, oh, that's one of the best noises you'll ever hear. Firstly, there's so much freedom out there. I can finally express myself in so many different ways. Even though it's through a 56K modem, I can do it in some way, whether it's text or whatever it is, but something. We finally can reach out to the world from Australia. We can finally talk to other people across the oceans.
We can finally do stuff like this because we sure as hell couldn't do this in the 90s.
Couldn't do this on a 56K modem, I can tell you that much. This will be on text space right now. We'd be like, I don't know if you remember ICQ. You go, pew! It was like have a little buzz tone for ICQ. That was like a message, like an MSN Messenger, similar to that, and had this really cool sound when you send a message. People who know ICQ know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about then.
Okay, yeah, because I had like MSN Messenger was something I knew about. I had AIM, AOL as Messenger. That was a huge thing that my friends and I used all the time in middle school.
Yeah, MSN Messenger was big in Australia, and ICQ. They were the two big ones. But for a lot of kids like myself, we're using MSN Messenger the most. It's like I said, that's where a lot of us LOL and all these emojis come from back in those days. LMAO, all those came from those messenger days, from my memory.
Yep, that it did. Now, of course, all these youngins are with their emojis and their all the abbreviations. That we did that first.
Yeah, that's right. We started the trends, mate. We started the trends. You think you're cool? We're the trend starters, buddies. Look where it came from. All these video games that you love so much right now, we're the ones who instigated all that stuff. Our generation, even though we didn't know where it came from initially, we eventually found out. Now we're sharing it with the world and all our stories behind them all.
Quick story. I used to work at a toy store in Thousand Oaks, California, and we sold Pokemon cards and a few Pokemon toys here and there. But it always was one of those things. It was one of those things that just got me. It was either, oh my God, I feel so old, or that's right, kid, step off. You back of the line. You don't know that. It was when a bunch is like when kids, I want to say that are like 7 or 8 years old, and they walk into the store and they come up to me and they actually say this, and I quote, "Okay, you probably don't understand this because you're older, but do you have anything Pokemon?" And I'm like, "Excuse me."
We invented that. Well, not us, but that was our generation, kid. Of course we know what Pokemon is.
No, I think there's this one kid who came in and he was wearing a Pokemon t-shirt, and I said, "Hey kid, nice shirt." And he looks at it and he's like, "You know Pokemon?" I'm like, "Do I know Pokemon? I've been leveling Charizard to level 99 since before you were born. That came out when I was your age. I'm OG. I'm true Gen 1. You don't know the trails I had to blaze so you can get where you are today, young man."
And now you know exactly how old I am.
Yep. Right behind me, there's this big neon sign. It's like, he's old.
I'm actually just glad that it's more embraced now. Like I was saying previously, it was kind of like embarrassing telling people what I was playing Pokemon, and gaming in general was more accepted for kids, right? But a lot of adults weren't really playing games. My dad played games, but he was playing computer games like Doom and things like that. He always saw console gaming as like a kid's thing, but now it's so much more accepted because a lot of us kids are now grown up. We embrace it with our own children. And I think that the world around us, like other people our own age, oh yeah, you like console gaming? Of course you do. We grew up in the same era. We all like console gaming. It's not a kid's thing. It's a really cool thing to do. But back then, there was a big stigma with playing games at a certain age, say 17 or 18. Oh, you play video games still? Isn't that like a kid's thing? But now, obviously, it's more embraced by everyone. It's actually a career option now. Being a gamer can be a career option. And that blows my mind. If I knew that when I was a little kid, but being a gamer could have been a career option, that would have blown my mind. It's a little hard for me to change workplaces now because I'm so with what I'm doing with work now. It's kind of hard to change it. But if you've got that goal set in mind from a young age, you can really aim for that. It's not, I mean, you can still do it now, but I'm so set in my ways now. It's kind of hard just to change your life around to try and do gaming full time. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, especially when you're getting good money as it is. But if I knew it earlier on, my direction in my path in life could have been a whole lot different if it was more accepted back then. Because, like I said, it's much more accepted now, and that's a good thing, I think. Because my kid, he's asking me about streaming. I'm like, yeah, look, mate, if you want to try streaming, you go for it. If I said that to my parents, oh, I'm gonna go on the internet and play games and try and get money, they'll look at me like, are you crazy? You can't do that. You can't make money out of that. But if my son says it to me, I'll be like, you know what, Benji, that's his name. You go for it. If you want to try that out, you go for it, son. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At least you tried. If you want to go for it, it's all up to you. What you want to do in life is what you want to do. But with my parents, because my parents are 75 now, and it's big generational gap. I mean, my mum was born the day World War II ended. So that's showing how old my mum is. I'm 38 right now, but that just shows how old I am as well.
No, I'm also really glad that just saying that I like video games, I love video games, both modern and retro, isn't such a huge stigma. Because I remember back when I was in high school that you can play games, but there are only certain type of games that you were allowed to express outside and be like, hey, I just got the new Call of Duty, or I just got Grand Theft Auto, the big AAA titles that all the kids were playing. And if I piped up and said, yeah, I'm also going to get that one, Final Fantasy 12, I was going to get ridiculed for it. I was ridiculed for it, funny enough. I remember my brother and his friends, they would see me in my room playing Final Fantasy 12 my freshman year in high school, and they would legitimately tell me, "It's like, Ben, you're never going to get a girlfriend if you keep playing games like Final Fantasy. You're never going to get a girlfriend if you play video games at all." Thankfully, that's not true. I mean, it was pretty sad.
No, it's sad for them, not for you, because I mean, games are games, right? I've had so many people on Twitter have this argument. I've seen it. I've also put my 2 cents in many a times before. People will go on there and say, if you don't play first-person shooters, you're not a gamer. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many different types of genres of games there are out there? People play all different types of games. I don't personally play first-person shooters. Now, for example, just say I played a game like Barbie on the NES, right? As an example, obviously I don't, but I'm just saying, just say a little kid, say a 5-year-old kid plays Barbie on the NES all day, every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. She loves the game. Is she not a gamer just because she's playing a Barbie game on the NES? Of course she's a gamer. She loves playing the game, right? What doesn't matter what type of game it actually is. It's as long as you enjoy a game, I think you're a gamer. I could play Tetris every single day. If Tetris was the last game on Earth, I would play it every single day because I love that game so much. People would say, oh, first-person shooters, if you don't play them, you're not a true gamer. I mean, that's not the way to look at things. It's the opposite way to what you should be looking at, because everybody plays different types of games, and what you play is the game that you like to play. You can't put people down because they like role-playing games, they play Tetris games, or whatever it may be. You can't do that. It just doesn't work like that, and your argument automatically fails before you even start the argument.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is a dumb argument that when people go like, "Oh, you are not a real gamer," it's like, dude, buzz off, man. It's one of those things. It's like, dude, get out of here. Like the second you start judging me for playing, luckily no one has actually done this, but I played Dark Souls and Bloodborne with my brother. We play co-op because there's a co-op option for that. We beat the game via co-op. We had a blast. I absolutely loved it. It was a great bonding experience with my brother. And if someone's going to come up to me and say, oh, you didn't play it by yourself, then you didn't really beat Dark Souls. It's like, get the hell out of here. Of course I beat Dark Souls. And also to my credit, It is a very hard game. And also, to my credit, I did 1v1 Maria of the Astral Clock Tower in Bloodborne, and I beat her on my first try.
Awesome.
Apparently she is hard as hell. But going back to video game collecting, so we talked about games that or about things that we have collected. What is it now in a perfect world where money is not an issue and space is not an issue? What would you be collecting?
Neo Geo, if I could afford it. AES, Neo Geo. But you know what? That's impossible to buy, especially where I live.
I actually saw a Neo Geo live at a storefront at a trade show. The one I want to take you when you eventually come up here. Yeah. It was on sale for $1,500 American dollars. Wow. No games, just the system and the joystick. And I thought, oh hell no.
Yeah. I just want one so badly. And they were never sold here in Australia. Well, if they were, would have been imported. They never. I barely knew what a Neo Geo was. I only found out what Neo Geo was when the internet came. Basically, I never basically heard of a Neo Geo. The only thing I knew about Neo Geo was that there was arcade machines at the arcade that had the sign Neo Geo, and it had the Art of Fighting games there. I knew it was an arcade Neo Geo, but I didn't know it actually made a console. I never knew that. And then, of course, I looked into it, and they've always been expensive. I think even earlier on, they were expensive to buy. Even more than the Super Nintendo, of course. I think you can get an adapter that gets the old arcade boards and makes it cheaper to buy the old, I can't remember what you call it, but you could put an adapter on your AES Neo Geo and you can get the arcade cartridges, and it's actually much cheaper to buy that way, because buying the actual Neo Geo games themselves is near impossible to get at a good price. And that's if I had $1 billion, my room, that I have no worries of issues because I've got all the room in the world in your fictional universe. I'd have all Neo Geo stuff as well as my Super Nintendo stuff.
Okay, so let's dial it back a little bit. What is a system or a type of game that you want to collect now in the future? Where it's like, I mean, of course, you're still gonna be able to collecting SNES games, but what is one system or one game that you're like, I'm gonna collect that someday? It's not now, but someday I'm gonna start collecting for that.
So is that a system that I don't have? Because I pretty much got every single system that I need apart from the Neo Geo. I don't have an Atari, but I'm really interested in that.
Okay.
But I've got pretty much every PlayStation. I'm not really that interested in the I've got the original Xbox, but I'm not really interested in the 360 and the Xbox Ones and all that. Yeah, I've pretty much got, honestly, I'm not being a fool, but I've pretty much got every system I want apart from the Neo Geo. That's probably the other one. Oh, you know what? I haven't got a Commodore 64. My dad sold our old one, and I would love to get a Commodore 64 again with the disk drive. But again, with storage, that takes up a lot of room. The Commodore 64 takes up a lot of room because it's a microcomputer, basically. And there's so many different things for that. Like you've got the disk drive and you got all the floppies and all that. But honestly, the Super Nintendo, if I was going to collect anything more, I would try and buy more boxed Super Nintendos, because I've only got right now the original control set. I've only got the original control set. They've got all different variants of the Super Nintendo. They've got the Donkey Kong one. They've got the Killer Instinct one. They've got the Yoshi's Island one, which is an Australian exclusive one. They're all expensive to buy. So if I was to collect more Super Nintendo, and even Nintendo 64, they've got all the different variants. But when it comes to variants, I would love to collect much more Super Nintendo boxed consoles. Again, they're consoles, they're boxed. Not a lot of room. I could probably afford to buy them, but I've got no room to put them anywhere. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I'm working on that. I am actually working on that. I've got 2 rooms dedicated to gaming stuff. We're going to try and build a room at the back of the house in the yard one day, hopefully. So we're on that path, but we'll get there one day, but not right now. But that is an option in the future to get more room for myself.
Awesome. So I unfortunately don't have a whole lot of consoles. The consoles I still have are my NES, my PlayStation 1, PS2, obviously my PS4, my Switch, and the NES Mini, SNES Mini, and the Genesis Mini. So those are the ones I have, but like I told you earlier, space is very limited. But I told myself at the end of the year, because I want to get an N64 again.
You do? Yes.
Unfortunately, my original N64 that I had when I was a kid was lost. I loaned it to one of my brothers. here comes my brother again. My brother's friend, and I loaned him the console and my entire game collection, which included Mario Kart 64, Super Smash Brothers, Pokemon Stadium, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Star Fox 64, and what else was in there? There was another big game that I had that I can't remember.
Snowboard Kids? That was a good game.
No, it wasn't that, but I had a good chunk of classic N64 games that even here in America, they're hard to find, and they're also, if you do find them, they're pretty damn expensive.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that system and those games were lost to time. Hurts my soul. But eventually, I told myself I'm gonna get it again. I'm gonna get my N64 again, but the N64 I want is the green one. It's kind of like your teal one that you have up there, but it's the green one.
I have a great story about the green one that you're talking about. So in Australia, we have a Target. I'm pretty sure it's the same type of Target that you guys have in America with the Target symbol.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So it's like a convenient. It's like, where you buy games and stuff back then. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if they sell them now at Targets, but they did back then. So they were clearing out all their Nintendo 64 stuff. And for whatever reason, I had about $500 in my pocket that day. I don't know why. I think I was buying a TV or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I went in there to buy a TV. Something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I walked past the game section and they had all these Nintendo 64s piled up. That was one of them, right? They had all the colors. They had the green. They had all the colors there. And they also had about 10 boxed, which I bought, one of them, Conker's Bad Fur Day. They had 10 boxed Conker's Bad Fur Days. I bought one, and I bought one of the Nintendo 64s. That was $40. That was $50, and the Conker's was $40. That's all I bought, and that's my biggest regret. You asked before, what's my biggest regret? I had $500 in my pocket, and I knew at that time, that Conker's Bad Fur Day was a rare game. I knew it was going to be a rare game because going by how the game actually is, I'm like, this game's going to be something one day. You know how you just got a hunch on a game? Mm-hmm. I'm like, this game's going to be something, and I only bought one, and I only bought one of that. I should have bought 3. I should have bought one of 3 of each, at least, or more. I mean, what was I thinking? I could have bought 5 Conker Bad Fur Days mint in the box and a few more of his variants of the Nintendo 64. Mm-hmm. Regrets, my friend. That's true regrets.
Regrets. Yeah. Like earlier when you were saying striking when the iron was hot, there are times where even when I'm at I was at the trade show with my friends a few times, the longest time I was looking for a Metroid Fusion. I had it originally. I sold it to a friend of mine when he bought my Game Boy Advance off me because I got my SP. I didn't need it anymore, so I figured I'm going to be nice and give him a game, and Metroid Fusion was the game. Years later, I'm like, man, I really want to play that game again. When I wasn't looking for it, it was everywhere, and it was like $30-$20. It was cheap, but I didn't have the money for it. And when I was hunting for it, scarce, and it was like $45.
Can I show you something?
Yeah, go for it.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds.
2 seconds. 2 seconds. I'll keep vamping. But, oh, man. Yeah. So if you're listening to this, if you see a game that you want and you're able to do it, try. I mean, if you know you can do it, strike when the iron is hot, because I have a lot of gaming regrets, and that is not fun. I mean, luckily I was able to find Metroid Fusion, so that's the good news. I was able to get Metroid Fusion. Top Loader is still trying to find something, which I can only assume is something that's going to make me insanely jealous. Pretty much almost every guest I've had on the show has made me insanely jealous.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sealed in completely sealed CIB PAL Metroid Fusion. Oh, that is gorgeous.
Haven't played it because it's in the box.
Yep.
It's the only of all my sealed games, that's the only one I don't have. Like, I have sealed games, but I have the cartridge. But that's probably the only one I don't have a separate cartridge for because it's expensive, the game. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. I hate to disappoint you there. I hate to wave it in front of the camera like a piece of candy.
So I have told myself that when I bring people on the show, I know there's gonna be something in their collections that's just gonna make me go, oh, I want it. But it's not like, how dare you? It's like, you know what? You got it. That's great. I'm happy for you. I'm mad at myself.
Don't worry, I'm jealous of your Mega Man's there, buddy. You got...
At least I got something on you. At least I got something.
That's funny.
Oh man, so we talked about like wanting to collect stuff. Is there do you have an item in your collection that's like your crown jewel that no matter what happens in your life, you're never gonna get rid of that one game? Or is there like a couple of games?
There's a couple of them for sure. Did you want me to actually show you? Because it's easy to do. But I can tell you as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, hang on.
Okay, we'll probably have to cut this out. Probably should have asked him to grab these before we started. All right, that was quick.
So there's definitely a few. Super Mario World box, I have 2. My favorite game of all time is Super Mario World. I have 2 yellow box PAL editions, which, if you don't know, Super Mario World came boxed early on with many of the games. So the boxed version of Super Mario World was hard to get because they only gave you the cartridge when you bought the console with Super Mario World. So it's hard to get Super Mario World in the yellow PAL box. And I got 2 of them, but I'll never ever get... I'll not get rid of any of my games, but Super Mario World, I will be going to my grave with that clenched in my hand. But my crown jewel in my collection is Link to the Past, sealed.
Oh, wait, is that that's the PAL version, right? Or is that the American one?
This is the American version. This is what I got with the recession. You know, when I was talking before, the 2008 recession. Yeah. I know it's sad to say, but that was really the best time for us internationals to buy. That's when your prices in America started to go right up, because all of a sudden we could actually buy off the international US site and the prices were so cheap. I know it was a bad time for the world. That's why I feel kind of bad, because, you know, everyone was struggling in the world. But for prices, it was really good for us to buy there, because all of a sudden the sellers in America were starting to sell to internationals like myself. Only 20% of them were selling to Australians or whatever international before that, because they didn't want to send it overseas. But with the international priority shipping, they would send it to somewhere in America who would deal with the international shipping. So all of a sudden, 80% of the sellers would start selling games to internationals. And it was cheaper because of the recession. And this is one of the products that I got, is Link to the Past.
Beautiful.
And I'll never sell that. I'll never sell anything, but that's definitely one I will never sell. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite games of all time anyway.
Yeah, there are a few games. Well, when the minis started coming out, I won the NES mini because it was like
one question with that. One question, your NES, Super NES minis, do you have one that's hacked, or do you have one that's... I have one that's pure, like I've done nothing to it, and I bought one separate that's hacked, so I put all my ROMs onto that. If I was going anywhere, I can just like load up a whole heap of ROMs, and like if I'm going to stay somewhere, I can take it with me. Do you have that with your NES mini or Super NES minis as well, the hacked version?
They're as is. I didn't want to hack them. I don't have the technical know-how to do it, and also I didn't want to give to someone who claimed they could and then end up breaking my little system.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because when I got my NES mini, I got it on the second wave when Nintendo re-released it after the first debacle.
Yeah.
So I walked into a GameStop one day. They had it behind the counter. They had a bunch of them. So I'm like, one of those, please.
Yeah, exactly.
I was happy to get it because I got my SNES first. Like I waited outside of a Target to get my SNES when it came out.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not losing the SNES mini. The NES. Yeah, the NES, I still have the original toaster. It's in there. I still have it. It's just that the mini one, I was like, I could hook it up to my modern TV and I don't have to worry about it.
And they look good too. And unfortunately for Nintendo, I don't know why they did it. I'm almost mirroring your story right there, because with the NES mini, when it first came out, I thought, you know what, they're going to have plenty of these things. I'm not going to worry about it just yet. I'm not going to get one on launch day. You know, well, it'll be easy to get. Okay, so they all sell out. They're all inflated prices on everywhere you look. And then Nintendo's like, oh, we didn't realize people were going to buy them. I don't know if that's actually true or what, but I had to get the second batch like yourself. And when the the Super Nintendo Mini came out, I pre-ordered, I stood in line, and I made sure I bloody well got one. Because of Star Fox 2 as well, because I was really itching to play Star Fox 2. I know there's an emulation for it as well, but I never played that, but I was just wanting to play it on an official product, the way it was meant to be played. Even though it's as official as you're going to get. You're not going to get an actual Super Nintendo official version, but it's still released by Nintendo. And the artwork was all through Nintendo, like the title screen and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I went for my mini for my SNES. Like I knew I was gonna get the SNES mini like automatically, not for Super Mario World, not for Mega Man X, but because Secret of Mana was on there.
Yeah.
And I have seen Secret of Mana on everyone. Like I'll be watching YouTube videos, I'll be watching people talk about it, and they say like, man, Secret of Mana is such a good game. If you can find it, you should totally get it. I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't have a Super Nintendo at my house. I definitely don't have the money to get a Super Nintendo to buy the console just to buy a game that's like $100 some CIB, or even loose is like 60 to 80, give or take. So when they announced that, it was like, hey, Secret of Mana is going to be on the SNES Mini for $80 with a bunch of other games included. I'm like, done.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it.
I'm not a massive RPG fan, but what I like about it is you can actually hit people like Zelda type, and it's also got its RPG elements as well. But the music in that game is so good. I love the music in the game. If a game has got a great soundtrack, I'll play it much longer than I would normally play because the music's so good. But that game in general is so fantastic anyway. Again, I'm not a big RPG guy, but that is one of the other games that I love to play as well because it just gets me in the moment. It's a lot like Zelda. It's got great music. It's got great gameplay. It's not a traditional RPG where it's turn-based, because I'm not massive on the turn-based thing, apart from Pokemon, because Pokemon's limited. You only get 4 moves, but some of them can get advanced. So with some of the Final Fantasies, I'm sure they can get pretty advanced with all the move sets you get. But with Pokemon, you only get 4 moves, which I actually like because I'm not massively into the turn-based system. I can get a little bit confused. But when I've only got 4 moves to choose from, it's pretty simple to do. But Secret of Mana, great game, great soundtrack, great gameplay. All around awesome game to have in your collection.
Yeah. Fun fact: Secret of Mana, the composer of the game is like the third or fourth person to be mentioned in the credits. Like when you put the game in the cartridge, or when you boot it up on the mini, you get to the title screen, the start screen, and it says like director, assist, executive producer, and then the composer.
Is Final Fantasy VI like that too?
So Final Fantasy VI on the mini is Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah, it's basically 6. Yeah, it's the same game. Yeah.
It is. It's the same game, but I don't know exactly what they did for Final Fantasy 6 or 3/6.
It's got a great intro music, and I don't know when the composer's name come up, but I know from memory, I've only played it a few times, but I know there's like a cinematic opening, and I'm guessing the composer's there as well, and it's just honestly just gets you in the mood for the game.
For Final Fantasy, for Final Fantasy, the credits do roll because all right. So hold up, I want to show you something else real quick, and thankfully it's on my same slot. This is great audio. Sorry, people. Where they go? Not you. You. Are you? Yes. Okay. So this is where the first time I played Final Fantasy VI. The Final Fantasy Anthology, which has Final Fantasy 5 and 6 on here for the PlayStation. Not the best ports, but for me, this is the only way I could get it because once again, I don't have an SNES. And the cool thing about this is that this came with a music CD with all the tracks from 5 and 6. So Nobuo Uematsu's compositions are on here.
That's fantastic. That's so awesome. And the music, like I said, Final Fantasy games, I'm not massive into Final Fantasy, but the one thing I can agree on, the music in pretty much all the games is awesome. And a great soundtrack for me can go a very long way. And fun fact for anybody out there who's not in the PAL territories, the very first Final Fantasy game we got in the PAL territories was Final Fantasy VII. That was the very first time I had even heard of the name Final Fantasy when that game came out, because we never got any before that on any of our systems. Yeah, there you go. Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. It's funny enough, I picked my copy up. So I would say this is like a reprint, or this is like printed later down the line.
A best of type thing. Yeah, like a classic edition.
Yeah, it's the greatest hits edition. But I mean, this could still go for like $50.
Wow.
And I paid $5 for this. I got it at a store. They had this on sale at a Kmart. I don't know if you ever had Kmart in Australia.
We got Kmart here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that was on sale at Kmart for $5. And my mom was like, I asked my mom, I was like, hey mom, can you get me that? She's like, yeah, it's $5. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Our Kmart stopped selling games recently. So the last few years, I don't know if your Kmart still sell games, but ours don't sell them anymore, unfortunately.
I think our Kmart went under.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Toys R Us went up under like everywhere. We had a massive Toys R Us in us, and that was great buying from Toys R Us because they had the slips. So you get the slips out, you take it to the counter, they give you a brand new sealed game. So you didn't get one that was touched on the shelf, which is great if you're a collector. You just take your little slip. I don't know how they did it in America, but that's how they did it.
That's exactly how we did it here in America too.
Oh, okay, well there you go. And I love that. You paid a little bit more, but I didn't mind that because I wanted it mint. I wanted it as fresh as I could get it.
Yeah, I got the last big purchase I ever made at Toys R Us before they went under. Funny enough, I got my Switch at Toys R Us.
Did ya?
Yep, I got it. I want to say April or late April or early May when it was when the Switch first came out, when it first released. It was hard to come by. I just got my tax return, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get the money. So I hunted down a place that was gonna get a shipment in. I called the store. They're like, yeah, we're gonna get a shipment tomorrow, but you better show up like an hour, like 2 hours early because there's gonna be a line, and we only have a limited number. I show up. There was a line. Thankfully, it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. I was like right smack dab in the middle. They gave me my little ticket, the little slip, and they put a number on it. And they said, come back at 9 o'clock when we open. So that is yours. And I did.
That's it.
Yeah, I went. I got breakfast. I came back. I just chilled in the car, stood back in line. Store opens up. Gave them my ticket. Gave them my money. They gave me my Switch. I went home. I was ecstatic.
You know what's funny? In Australia, I don't know if it's just because I bought mine the first day. I never had any trouble getting my Switch. I don't know if it was just because of an Australian thing. We got a lot of numbers or people weren't buying it here. I don't know. But I never even knew it was an issue getting a Switch because I got mine pretty easily. But I probably did pre-order it, admittedly. But I always remember still seeing them in the stores. Like I never really thought they were hard to get. Like the Wii was hard to get at the time. The Wii was really hard to get here, and I'm sure everywhere else. But the Switch, I didn't remember it being that difficult to get here. So it seems to be more Japan or maybe America. I don't know. But my experience is I got mine pretty easily. I hate to say it, but well, I love to say it, but sorry for you, but good for me.
Oh no, excuse me, that is good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like a difference in mentality in the buyer, in the mind of a buyer here in America than it is over in Australia. Because here, I want to say, especially with a lot of current gens, like right now, there's a absolute shortage of PS5s and Xbox Series X's here in America. It is nigh impossible. If you like my co-hosts on the Fake Nerd podcast, Sparks and Ryan, they both got PS5s. But they were following like alerts on Twitter, on I want to say Facebook maybe, but they were following a bunch of people who were also following sites on where you would get restocks for the systems.
Yeah, I have a similar situation. We have that same situation in Australia, unfortunately. It came out right before Christmas, and to be honest, I didn't think there were going to be shortages because Sony are usually pretty good. I know we've had the COVID thing, so that obviously has probably affected it. And I went to get one for Christmas because my son wanted one. He loves games as well. He loves retro games. He loves modern games. He loves Minecraft. He loves all types of games. They were sold out. I'm like, okay, you know what? It's Christmas. I'll get some supplies, just after Christmas. I went in to get one after Christmas. Oh, no, man. We're sold out again. I'm like, what? I swear I'm coming in when the stocks are there. They must just sell out that fast. I went in a little while ago, probably about a month ago, to my EB Games because people still use our EB Games. I don't know what it's like in America. Our electronic boutiques, we still have them. People still go to them a lot. And I said to him, when are you going to get the next PS5s then? He goes, oh, man, June, July, maybe. That's what he said to me. That's what he said to me. I'm like, June, July, maybe? What? This is probably about 1 or 2 months ago, admittedly. But I'm like, man, that's a long time to wait. That's what it is right now. It's sad, but that's how it is with the PS5s. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm waiting to get a PS5 personally. It's mostly because I don't have the money for it right now.
Yeah, it's very expensive, man. I mean, in Australia, I think for like $700 or $800 Australian. I don't know what that is in American, but it's a lot in Australia.
Yeah, they're going for 500 here in the States. And it's not that it's like, oh my God, 500, because I could pay for 500. That's easy.
Yeah.
It's mostly, when I do get a PS5, I'm going to be dropping probably $700 to $800 on it. Not just for the system, because I want to get an extra controller, because my girlfriend and I, we play video games together. I want to get a few other accessories for it. And of course, games are now $70 now.
Yeah.
So, and I want to get more than just one. The first time when I bought my PS4, which was the first console I bought on my own with my own money, didn't have any help from my parents. I walked out of my GameStop with at least 3 games for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, as much as I love I bought the Arkham Knight version, like not the Arkham Knight PS4 version, like the Arkham Knight bundle. I got that because I'm like, as much as Arkham Knight is awesome, I need more stuff to play than just Arkham Knight.
Yeah. And even the controllers are alone very expensive. Just to buy an extra controller is expensive. The Switch is the same. If you want a pro controller, it's $100 Australian. $100, which is probably like $70 American. I don't know. But
it's like $80 here in America for a pro controller.
Well, there you go. That's the difference. So it's expensive just to even buy an extra controller. I don't know how much the PS5 games are actually going to be because I haven't really checked the prices of them here because I haven't got a PS5. I haven't really worried about it too much. But I assume they're going to be a lot more than a Switch game is going to cost. But at the moment, I'm playing a lot of Switch anyway because my son loves the Switch. He loves all games. He loves PlayStation. He's got his PlayStation 4 in his room. He plays that all the time as well. So he's a big gamer. He's only 8 years old, but he's right in the games as well. And I'm loving playing games with him. And we can play all types of games. He's trying to teach me how to play Minecraft because I've never really played Minecraft before.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he loves it, and I like Minecraft, but it's not my type of game, but I'm trying to like it with him. But I'm like letting him teach me, but I don't think it's a game I'm going to play without him around. That's for sure. I know that for a fact, but I can see why he likes the game because it's, you build stuff and it's fun for, kids to build their own imaginations, which is great about Minecraft. But for me personally, I'm not into like the simulators, like say SimCities or The Sims. Even Gran Turismo games, the simulated racing games, I'm not right into. I prefer the old like Daytona arcade games, things like that. Even with sports games, I prefer the NBA jams over the S2K games or whatever it is. I don't know, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called.
Funny enough, I wrote an article so I write freelance for oldschoolgamermagazine.com, and a while ago I wrote an article about missing the older, wackier sports games.
Yeah,
where like NBA Jam, like NFL Blitz, or there's a few hockey titles, or just like these crazy wacky sports games where it's like you still play the sport, but it's like in NBA Jam, you got a guy saying he's on fire, and you're literally on fire because you're just like you're making all these 3-pointers and you're just smoking the other team.
Yeah, I'll give you a great. That's so true, man, because it's just wacky. It's just fun. There's something fun about the NBA Jam game, especially back in the 90s. It was such a big deal. And I'll give you a more recent example of that. So have you played this? You got a Switch, you said. Have you got the Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics games?
I have not gotten that, but I do know what it is.
Okay, so in Australia, rugby is a pretty big thing. My son, he doesn't really watch rugby. He's not right. He doesn't really watch sports at the moment, and I don't expect him to. If he doesn't want to watch sports, that's fine, right? Not everybody watches sports.
True.
Anyway, there's a game on there. There's a rugby game on the Mario at the Sonic versus Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics. He absolutely loves playing the rugby version of that game because it's kind of like a wacky version of rugby. And I was at the store the other day, and it was actually an official version of rugby, like a real version of the rugby game. I said, "Oh, you like the rugby game on the Mario at the Olympics? Do you want to get the actual rugby game?" He's like, "Oh." I showed him the back of the box. I showed him some YouTube footage. He's like, "Nah, I actually just like the Mario one because it's more fun." And that's the key word, fun. I'm sure people who play those simulators have fun with it. I personally don't. I think it's a little bit too serious for me personally. And I can see that's what he was thinking too. He's like, it looks a little bit too serious for me to play. A lot of these sports games are great, right? I'm sure if you're right into your NFL, which we don't have in Australia, obviously, we have like our AFL and the rugby league. It's a different type of football that you have. There are your fanatics. They're going to buy every single Madden game out there and they're going to love it. And that's great. But for me personally, I'm going to have more fun with your NBA jams and things like that because I personally just find that more fun to play. I don't know why. It's just what it is for me. It just seems to be more fun. And if my little 8-year-old can point the same thing out to me, he's like, I don't want to play that game. I prefer the Mario game because it's more fun.
No, I played. So I had a bunch of like those fun sports games when I was growing up. There's this one baseball game that I had when I was a kid. It was called Backyard Baseball 2002. And I know you guys don't have Major League. Do you guys have baseball in Australia?
Well, we do, but it's so low key. You wouldn't even know it was around. They play it on TV, put it that much, and I couldn't tell you even what the teams are called.
Don't worry about it. So obviously here in America, baseball is a huge thing. They had this game called Backyard Baseball where they took one famous player from each of the teams here in America, and they turned them into kids. So they have one player representing each team, and they have their own roster of kids, and you got to build a team of kids to play baseball against each other. You can play as like my favorite baseball team of all time, the Los Angeles Dodgers. You can play as the Los Angeles Dodgers with a bunch of different kids like from other teams on your team. And it was just fun because also if you were able to get like a double play or something, like you go up to bat, you have like little power-ups here and there. Like if you're really good at pitching, you get a fireball, which is like a super fast fastball, or the aluminum bat, where if you just make contact with the ball, it's an instant home run. It's just like these fun little things. Yeah. And then years later, I tried playing the actual baseball simulator that was on the PS2 at the time. I forgot what it was called. I don't know if EA made it or not. And it was like, this is boring as hell. And I love baseball. Baseball has horrible. It has a horrible reputation outside of the United States, or even inside. No, not just outside. Inside the States too. My girlfriend, she's not a big fan of it. But baseball is boring. Yeah. I love baseball. Here. Yeah,
cricket is boring.
Except luckily for our games normally last around 3 hours instead of 5 days for a regular cricket match.
Oh, so you know about cricket? Yes, that's true.
I listened to another podcast that has an Australian and an English guy, and they mentioned the cricket a few times, and that's the only thing I know.
So with cricket, they call them test matches, so it goes over 5 days, right? And they also do have 1 day games, but the big things are the 5 day games. And mate, I'm telling you, I'm Australian. 80% Australians love cricket, but I'm the 20% that just cannot stand it. Like you said, baseball to watch, I'm sure is boring as well. And there are your fanatics out there that love baseball, but for me with cricket, I just can't sit there for 5 days and watch a game. Like 5 days, man.
But luckily, if you were to come to the United States and things get open up, I can take you to a Dodgers game and I can buy you a beer
and a hot dog. I want a hot dog, buddy.
And well, for us, it's Dodger dogs. But yes, I can get you a Dodger dog. I could get you a beer, and it'll be a lot more enjoyable.
That is one thing I want to do if I go to America, is see a baseball game or an NBA game. One of the two. I have to go to one or both. Both were good. Both's good for me, right?
Let me know when you come up. Let me know when you come up. I'll take you to the best team.
There you go. The Dodgers, is it?
Well, okay. I'm biased. I'm a huge Dodgers fan, and we did win the World Series last year, so I'm still riding that high.
Well, that's good for you because I had no idea they did that. But you know what? I'm glad your team won because my rugby league team's at the bottom of the ladder and they're doing no good. But baseball. If I got beer, I'm good to go. I could sit for a baseball game if I got beer and hot dogs all day. I'm good to go. You know, I'm sure the atmosphere will keep me going alone, and the beer is just an extra for it. You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of baseball games, there are baseball games like we, have baseball games to play, but like you say, it's the fun one. So on those SNK arcade machines, they used to have the baseball games on there. They were fun. I used to like swinging for it. It wasn't simulated. It was just fun to play because the arcade type sports games were for me fun to play, even if I didn't really like the sport that I was playing. The game itself was the fun part.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm even looking at all the FIFAs and the Maddens. Like you mentioned Madden earlier, because that is like one of the biggest selling video game of all time here, or one of the biggest selling games. It's just, I get that every year the rosters change, so you have to get the newest year with the updated team and the updated rosters. I get that. But just every time I see these, I'm like, what did they add? What is new? It's just the same bloody thing. Just a guy who played for the Chiefs last year is now playing for the Raiders the next.
So is that the actual difference? Because I often wondered to myself, with those Madden games, you see them come out. We obviously sell them here too. Even though we don't play NFL here, we still sell the Madden games. Like they must sell well because they've always got them there.
It's probably for of Americans who got out.
Do they change that much with them? Because like you said with the rosters, is that all they change? Do they actually change anything? Maybe slight changes, I'm sure they got graphically as well.
Sure.
But NFL is still NFL. When you play a new EA soccer game, soccer's still soccer, right? How do you change soccer?
I don't know. So no, I have no, to full disclosure and full transparency, I have not touched a Madden game in well over 20 years.
Yeah,
so all I know is that there are times I'm at the store and I see the ad for the new Madden, I see it on the counter, and then a few weeks later I see it in the bargain bin, and I'm like, oh, okay, that happened. I haven't played one, I haven't touched one, so I can only, there are probably a few tweaks here and there. There are probably some big differences. I mean, obviously the cover is one, but that's a given. But it's mostly the rosters. It's mostly the rosters, and what everyone else is playing.
I do have one. I think it's an NFL game, but I'm going to show you, and you might be surprised here. Okay, it's on the Switch. You might actually have it. I don't know, but I'm going to see your reaction to it. Okay, it's a brand new game. Well, it's not brand new. It's slightly new. Give me 2 seconds. I'll grab it for you and see your reaction to it.
An NFL game on the Switch, and I'm pretty well in tune for stuff on the Switch. I didn't know. All right, I'm looking forward to this. I want to see what this is, because is there an NFL game on the Switch besides Madden? I don't think Madden is even on Nintendo systems. I'm pretty sure it's not. Huh. All right.
Well, yeah. You mentioned something similar before, so I want to see. I bought it, but I haven't played it yet. So.
Oh, you know what? I think Mutant Football League. I think I have heard of this one.
It's on the Switch. Oh, there's one, obviously, I got one on the Mega Drive as well, a hockey one, which is really good.
Yeah.
So I've got that too on the Mega Drive. Well, you call it Genesis in America.
Yeah.
I haven't played this one yet, so I don't know if it's good, but I saw it and I'm like, you know what? That actually might be fun, because it's a mutant football league, and obviously they brought them out in the 90s and they were fun, so I'm sure this is fun too. So if it's bad, well, that's on me, but I'm giving it a go to see what it's like.
Yeah, give it a go. But because I think I remember hearing about the mutant sport leagues games, and that was one of the first few times where parents were like really up in arms, like, oh no, violence in video games, because there's only like maybe 3 pixels worth of blood on the ice. I think it was the mutant hockey league where they did that, and they're like, oh look, you splattered that guy's brains all over the ice, and it's just like, it's either green goo or maybe like 3 pixels worth of blood, and people were mad about that.
Don't worry, but I'm mad about a lot of things about blood in the 90s, especially with Mortal Kombat and Doom.
Oh Lord.
But a cool game, one last cool story about this game. When I bought this, I tweeted it out. This is one great thing about social media that is so awesome. So do you know the voice of NBA Jam who goes, boom, chakalaka, that guy? He must voice in this game, because I tweeted this out and he tweeted me back, that's an awesome game or something. And I thought it was like, just someone pretending to be him. I was like, that's the actual NBA Jam guy voice. And he's tweeting me about my game. How cool is that? I was like, I thought that was so awesome. It's like just little things like that with the social medias just make it so worthwhile. Aside from meeting new people, just being able to contact people within the gaming industry that you've looked up to for so long is so accessible now. Is so awesome, because they're celebrities in the game world, so they're not really celebrities with the mainstream. So the chances of them tweeting something back is pretty high. Another example was Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. I tweeted something out with his name in it, Daniel Pacini, I can't remember what it was. He actually tweeted back to me. It's like if I tweeted, say, Brad Pitt or something, I don't think he's tweeting me back. But these guys in the video game industry, the chances are they might actually tweet you back and get an answer for something that you have a question for of a game that you have. And that's so great. If you're not into Twitter or social media and think it's just about celebrities and people, tweeting about crap, there's actually a really great community, as you know, Ben. You've been embraced. Everyone's been embracing that community who's right into games, and we're all pretty good with each other, and we share our stuff with each other. And people in the game industry are accessible to us as well. If we need to know something, they don't always tweet back, by the way, but the chances are pretty high if they do.
Yeah. Pretty much every time I would spam you and everyone else in our circle for when I either write something new or I'm doing a poll for an article. You guys always answer back. So
yeah, I try to, because one thing with YouTube, like you were saying at the start with the algorithms, and honestly, the algorithms have changed so much since YouTube started. It's really hard to get noticed now. A lot of these bigger YouTubers now, like say AVGN, they're really good. They do really good videos. sometimes I wish they just put a little bit more back into the smaller communities. Just, tweet out something to some people. I'm sure they tweet out to their own fans on their own page, but just tweet something out to other people too. I'm sure they're busy. I'm sure they've got like millions of things to do, but just keep your nose in like the smaller communities as well. It would go such a long way, I think. A lot of them don't seem to do that. They kind of like talk to each other, which is great for them. But I really do wish they just like branch out to like all communities at, it's to embrace everybody. They might actually get more people watching their shows too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about sharing each other's content on their social medias, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And we're going a little long here, so
all good.
Tod the Top Loader, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and just chatting with me, dude. Open invite if you ever want to come back. If you're bored, just hit me up and we'll figure out a time for you to come back on.
Oh, good, man. It's been a real blast here. Like I like to rave on. I'm sure people maybe who don't know me aren't used to that, but if you watch my YouTube channel, I'm raving all the time in a contained area where it's all edited down, so you don't have to listen to me rave on too much. But you've got the live version basically of me here, and I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to say, Ben, and I've enjoyed talking about every subject that you brought to at the table today.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned your YouTube, you mentioned your Twitter page, but where exactly can people find you on the internet if they want to find you?
So on YouTube is basically the only two places is Twitter and YouTube. I'm on Instagram, but I don't really do much Instagramming, so it's all the same basically. So it's like at the _, everybody loves the underscore, right? The _top _loader. Pretty much for Twitter and Instagram's the same, at the top loader with underscores. And YouTube is www.youtube.com/the top loader 82, all one word. Because I couldn't get the top loader just by itself because someone already had that. Apparently there's a band named the top loader band. So they're called that or something. But mine's the top loader 82 at youtube.com.
And also just to let you know, I understood your name when I first saw it. I was like, oh, just like the NES top loader. Nice.
Yeah. It's actually a double meaning there because obviously what I talk about with my YouTube channels are top loading games mostly. So they're cartridges that get top loaded into the console. So the top loader, because I'm not really talking too much about the CD based games. I'm mostly talking about the cartridge based games. I do talk about CD based games, but mostly talk about cartridge based games where you top load them into the systems are my favorite consoles of all time.
Nice. So go ahead, check out the top loader out, follow on all the socials. I'm probably going to follow you on Instagram because I realize I don't follow you on Instagram yet, but that's going to be rectified soon.
Right.
You can find me, Ben Magnet, hosting the Fake Nerd podcast with my bros, Brandon, Ryan, and Sparks every single Sunday right here on this YouTube channel. Or if you're listening to audio feed, you can listen to us talk about movies, video games, comic books. That show's the mother show. We do everything on that show. Not everything on the show, but we talk about a whole lot of stuff on that show. We're still doing our quarantine casts. Those are still going on live right now. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Fake Nerd Pod. You can email us directly at fakenerdguys@gmail.com. And if you want to get in touch with me personally, my Instagram and Twitter is benmagnet27. And also, like I said earlier, I write for oldschoolgamermagazine.com. A bunch of my articles are up there right now. My newest one is about using video game guides to help you beat a retro game, since we're all adults, or most of us are adults. He and I are adults, definitely. And our time is limited. And as much as because I'm playing through Metroid Samus Returns on my 3DS right now. I'm playing this gorgeous thing. I'm loving it. I'm going through it blind, but I know I'm missing a bunch of stuff. So I know I'm not going to complete it when my first go through. And I'm probably definitely going to be using a guide to help out some stuff where I can't find it. But luckily I've solved a lot of the puzzles. And fakenerdpodcast.com. Links to everything. The Patreon, the TeePublic. We got some awesome shirts. Basement Arcade t-shirts are on the TeePublic right now. Links to our Patreon. If you sign up for our Patreon right now, our second tier is, I cannot believe I'm saying this, the exclusive shirt on our Patreon is saying that you are Stephen King's best friend. So there's a running joke on our Fake Nerd podcast that I am Stephen King's best friend, even though I'm not. It's because we reviewed one of Stephen King's movies one time, and I said I know nothing about Stephen King, and they decided to run with it, and that joke has been going on for over 4 years. And every time anything Stephen King is mentioned, they always look to me. He's like, "So Ben, you're his best friend. What does he mean by this? What's the theme of the book?" I'm like, "I don't freaking know."
Don't worry, I'll be in the same boat as you. I don't know a whole lot about Stephen King as well, so I can be his second best friend.
Don't say it, or else the guy, or else the, you already
It'll
said
stick. It'll stick.
It'll stick. So, anyways, yes, fakenerdpodcast.com. Links to everything are on there. You can listen to us, watch us here on YouTube, listen to us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. Like and subscribe to this channel for more awesome stuff, Basement Arcade related and not Basement Arcade related. We have so many shows on this. Where do we find the time to do it? Well, we find the time because we love doing this. Once again, Top, thank you so much for coming on. Cannot wait to talk to you again. It's gonna be I wish we could go longer, but nope, gotta keep it under a certain time limit.
You're right, buddy. I've had a great time, and thank you for having me on your awesome show.
Of course. And with that, unpause.